Welcome to a brief history of every single character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, a video that I thought would be a great and easy way to make Smash related content, because it's got the word brief right in the title. It wasn't. Took a long fucking time. Number 1, Mario. Mario is of course Nintendo's most recognizable icon. He's basically the Mickey Mouse of video games. Created by Shigeru Miyamoto at the age of 24, Mario was originally named Jumpman in his debut game, Donkey Kong. He wouldn't officially receive his name until the sequel Donkey Kong Jr., where he was named Mario after Nintendo of America's landlord Mario Segale. Sadly, Mr. Segale passed away just earlier this year, but his namesake will continue to live on. Number 2, Luigi. Luigi is the younger of the twin Mario brothers. Luigi first came onto the scene with the Mario Brothers arcade game, originally being nothing more than a palette swap of his brother. It wasn't really until Luigi's Mansion that the younger brother actually gained some personality. Luigi's name in English was rumored to come from a local pizza place near Nintendo of America headquarters named Mario and Luigi's, and in Japanese his name is a pun that means same or similar. Also, fun fact, technically this trailer of Luigi in Dracula's castle is not his first visit there, as in Castlevania Lord of Shadows there is an Easter egg that can be found left by Luigi, describing his time as a plumber for the Lord of Darkness himself. Probably didn't get paid enough for that job. Saying Dracula seems like a stingy tipper. Tip your plumbers, guys. Don't be a Dracula. Princess Peach, or Princess Toadstool as she was renamed from time to time in America prior to Mario 64. She first appeared in Super Mario Bros. On the NES, originally just the damsel in distress. As the years have gone on, she has become stronger and more independent, despite still being constantly kidnapped. Her original design was based on olive oil from Popeye, but this was reworked by Miyamoto with some help from Yoichi Kotatabi after Nintendo failed to get the rights to make the Popeye game. Bowser. Bowser, also known as King Koopa, or by his much more badass name in Japan, which translates into English as the Great Demon King, is the main antagonist of the Mario series. He appeared in a total of over 150 games to date, with that number steadily growing. Originally based on an Ox King, not the one from Dragon Ball, but a different one, it was pointed out to Miyamoto that maybe a turtle design would be more appropriate for the king of the turtle people. This may explain why Bowser is a giant horned turtle monster and dispels my theory of his parents being a sea turtle and a particularly evil cow. Oh well, Nintendo is always changing the canon though, so it's never too late to get the origin story we deserve. Bowser Jr. in the Koopalings sounds like the name of a really forgotten 70s rock band, but is actually 1 part Bowser's son and 6 parts not Bowser's children. Originally, both Bowser Jr. and all the Koopalings were said to be Bowser's children. However, in recent years, the Koopalings have been downgraded to minions. I guess Nintendo got tired of all the Peach is the mother of 8 turtle children theories and had to retcon that piece of canon. Thanks, MatPat. Koopalings are all named after famous musicians, kind of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with their Renaissance artist. Some people believe that Boom Boom is actually the long-lost secret Koopaling, but this is just a speculation. If this is true, I can only wonder what he did to be ostracized by the rest of his family. He probably punched grandma or something bad like that. Yoshi! Yoshi may have first appeared in Super Mario World, but he was originally thought of for the Super Mario World 3. It was left out due to limitations of the console. The ideas they had for Yoshi were replaced by the Goomba Shoe, which provided less animation, less sprite work, and allowed the same mechanics to be placed into the game. Despite making his debut on the SNES launch title Classic Super Mario World, he still appears in 2 NES games that were released later. Since his initial release, he has actually starred in more games than Luigi, which does feel a bit sad for Luigi. Rosalina and Luma. Rosalina was first introduced in Super Mario Galaxy, but was quickly adopted as one of the series' mainstay heroes. She is a godlike being who, while exploring the stars, adopted a host of Lumas who she now calls her family. She is a sorceress, hundreds of years old, and tasked with guarding the galaxy. Much of her motivation comes from her great grief over losing her mother. All of this is super heavy for a Mario game. Wario. Wario was originally designed by Hiroji Kiyotaki, the same character designer who made Samus Aran. He was designed to be an arch nemesis to Mario in the game Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. He was designed to be a caricature of Mario, accentuating all of his features in the most negative and evil ways possible. Since then, he has been evolved into an anti-hero of sorts in his own Wario Land and WarioWare games. Despite what many people assume, he is not actually related to Waluigi. They're just partners in crime and longtime friends, and they've been roommates for a really long time, and they keep going to family holidays together. And Wario has also starred in more games than Luigi. Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario is a persona that Mario adopts in the popular puzzle game and one of the best Tetris ripoffs ever, Dr. Mario, released in 1990. Nowhere online was I able to verify where this so-called doctorate came from, but I am assured that he has one. Dr. Mario works at the Mushroom Kingdom Hospital, where he eliminates viruses and other diseases using megavitamins. Basically, Dr. Mario is a sham doctor who is trying to sell you herbal supplements, and I cannot support that. Next character! Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong first appeared in the famous arcade game of the same name, although it has been hinted at that the Donkey Kong in that game may actually be Cranky Kong. Nintendo has gone back and forth on whether or not the current Donkey Kong is the grandson of Cranky Kong, or if he is the grown version of Donkey Kong Jr., making him Cranky's son. It's obvious to see that King Kong was a strong inspiration for this character, but what you may not know is this also links back to Nintendo's attempt to make a Popeye game. Donkey Kong was originally Bluto, Pauline was Olive Oil, and Jumpman was going to be Popeye. Instead, the story was changed so that Donkey Kong was actually the pet of Jumpman, and Pauline was his girlfriend who the gorilla had fallen in love with, creating one very odd love triangle. Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong originally started his life as an updated version of Donkey Kong Jr., but was later changed to be his own character. Nintendo told Rare that they either had to redo his character design or create his own character. Since they had already done all the work, Diddy Kong became Diddy Kong. He is the best friend and nephew to Donkey Kong and boyfriend of Dixie Kong. He is characterized by his drive to be a great hero like his uncle, and he is the only Kong to be in every Donkey Kong Country/Land game. There's not really a lot of info about Diddy Kong out there, but he does play the electric guitar in race go-karts, so pretty awesome in my book. Give him 4 thumbs up. Samus. Samus Aran was one of the earliest female protagonists in video games and one of the very few of her time. This wasn't originally the plan for the Metroid games though. It wasn't until about halfway through the development that one of the developers proposed the idea, and it was voted on by the team and passed. The instruction manual for Metroid purposefully never refers to her as female to keep the end of the game a surprise. The original Metroid game was designed to be a mix of running and jumping action of Mario, combined with the exploration elements of Zelda, with a pinch of Ridley Scott Alien thrown in for flavor. While much of her backstory remains non-canon, what we know for sure is that after Ridley destroyed her homeworld and kills her family, she is taken in by the Chozo, who not only give her the iconic power suit, but also infuse her with Chozo DNA, explaining much of her superhuman feats. In fact, combined with the Metroid DNA that she gets by the end of the series, chronologically, Samus is barely even human towards the ends of the games. Zero Suit Samus. The Zero Suit first appeared in Metroid Zero Mission after Samus is shot down on Zebes and stripped of her power suit. The Zero Suit is more than just a piece of clothing as many believe though. Just like the power suit, it augments her abilities, just with a focus on dexterity and agility instead of power. It comes from the Chozo just like the power suit itself, and it features their symbol on the back. Other than that, Zero Suit was really just designed as a plot device to make Samus feel helpless, and it stuck around because people want to see Samus in a skin-tight jumper. Ya freaking pervs. Ice Climbers! Let's start this one by saying, the Ice Climbers, named Nana and Popo, are according to Nintendo, rarely seen apart, and this is the only hint to their true nature of their relationship. Nintendo says it is up to the player's imagination what their relation is, so they are not officially married, or siblings, or anything. The next time somebody at a tournament tries to tell you, no, they're married, or no, they're brother and sister, you can say, no, they're whatever I want them to be. They appear in the 1985 NES game Ice Climbers, which was bundled with the NES in many European countries. It is the only non-Smash game the pair has ever been in if you don't count the Versus Ice Climbers, the arcade version, as a separate entity. It's more of a Redux version than anything. In German, Popo's name was changed to Pepe because Popo in German can mean buttocks. Kirby! Kirby was the game series that Masahiro Sakurai worked on prior to Smash Bros. Kirby originally was just the placeholder design, but Sakurai decided that the character design fit the style of the game, and he also enjoyed that it would be easy for fans to draw. Keeping the streak of being named after people that were important in Nintendo's history, Kirby was named after the lawyer Jack Kirby, who defended Nintendo in their case against Universal Studios, where Universal claimed that Donkey Kong was a ripoff of King Kong. Nintendo ultimately won this case, and Nintendo thanked Jack by naming Kirby after him. Also, presumably, they gave him lots of money. Kirby was almost a yellow blob instead of pink. Shigeru Miyamoto actually argued with Sakurai, saying that the character should be yellow, and their long-standing argument led to Kirby being white on the original box art, as no official decision had been made by the time of the game's official release. However, by the time that Kirby's second game was hitting store shelves, Sakurai had gotten his way and the lovable ball was made pink. Meta Knight. Meta Knight may have started as a villain to Kirby, leading his band of very originally named Meta Knights to put a stop to the lazy ways of the inhabitants of Dreamland. However, since then, Meta Knight has always been showing doing good deeds or mentoring Kirby. Even his brief time as a villain was said only because he thought King DIDDYK was such a bad ruler. Underneath his mask, he is shown to look just like Kirby, except blue. His bat-like wings are not actually attached to him and instead come from his Dimension Cape, which can transform into usable wings. It is unknown for sure if Meta Knight is related to Kirby, the same species as Kirby, or possibly even him from some sort of alternate reality. But it is one of those mysteries that Nintendo just loves to leave up in the air. King DIDDYK. King DIDDYK is the main antagonist to Kirby and the self-proclaimed ruler of Dreamland. Despite being constantly at odds with Kirby, it is debated as to whether or not he's really evil or more just selfish and greedy like Wario. Many of his evil deeds are done while under the control of other mystical forces or villains. His rivalry with Kirby was said to have started when Kirby beat him in a gourmet race. While he is a king, it is unclear how much of the planet Popstar he controls or how much power he actually wields. He does have many castles and fortresses, but seemingly little control over the subjects of the land. In other languages, King DIDDYK's name has been localized to things like King Nap in German, or in French his name is essentially the sound a baby makes, making him King Baby Noises. Link. Link is the bearer of the Triforce of Courage and has been reincarnated about as many times as the Avatar himself. He is of the Hylian race and his hair is typically blonde or dirty blonde, although at one time during his angsty SNES days it was bright pink. Link's original design was inspired by Disney's Peter Pan, as Miyamoto wanted something that audiences would recognize right away. Miyamoto also originally didn't even want the character to have a name, which is why the original title was called The Legend of Zelda, not The Legend of Link. Miyamoto wanted the players to be completely immersed in the story and feel like they were the hero. Unfortunately, marketing materials needed to be able to call a character by a name. Link was decided on because he was the link between past and future times. Zelda was originally going to be a game entirely about traveling between the past and future, with the Triforce itself being microchips instead of mystical forces. Zelda originally received her name from Zelda Fitzgerald, the wife of author F. Scott Fitzgerald. Much like Link, she has been reincarnated many times throughout history, but almost always as a royal princess. Nintendo says that the Zelda in Zelda 2 has been under her sleeping curse for so long that the royal family often names their daughter Zelda in her honor. Despite being constantly captured by evil, she is rarely a damsel in distress like Princess Peach. Possessing the Triforce of Wisdom, she often plays a crucial role in the end battle against Ganon. Sheik! And speaking of Zelda not being a damsel in distress, there is possibly no better example of this than Sheik. From the Ocarina of Time game, Sheik is Zelda in disguise as a badass magical Sheikah ninja. Zelda uses her magic to completely transform her physical appearance into Sheik, and has Impa lock away her mind for 7 years while she waits for Link to re-emerge from the Temple of Time. Because this magical transformation affects her skin color, eyes, and hair, some fans debate whether or not Sheik is even female, or whether or not she actually transforms herself into a male. This, however, is one can of worms we will not open up in this video. Ganondorf is the king of evil, wielder of the Triforce of Power, and the only living male Gerudo. It is said that Gerudos only give birth to a male once every 100 years. Ganondorf's mother is actually the two witches who make up Twin Rova, although the father is a complete mystery. Regardless, Ganondorf has some family issues. Unlike Link and Zelda, who are reincarnated for nearly every adventure, Ganon is typically either revived by some evil force, reawakened, or just plain perseveres from a previous game. Every time this happens, it is said that his psyche fractures more and more, turning him from cool and cunning villain to a mad beast. In certain timeline, he is also stuck permanently in his pig form. Cannot imagine that is good for your psyche. Apart from being evil though, it is also alluded that Ganondorf can play the piano, and plays his own theme as you approach him both in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. Young Link. Ocarina of Time sure gets lots of love from the Super Smash Bros. Series, seeing that Sheik, the Young Link, and the design from Ganondorf and Ultimate are all taken from that game. Young Link is of course the young Hylian boy raised by the Kokiri but without a fairy. Essentially, he is just yet another Link. Toon Link. Okay guys, this is too many Links. Alright, I got a lot of characters to research and talk about here, and we're not even halfway through the list. This is Link from Wind Waker. He likes boats. He's expressive and cartoony, and he throws pigs off of cliffs. What a jerk. Ness. Ness is the baseball-loving protagonist of the Earthbound series, a game that despite massive popularity will never be seen again. Thanks, Nintendo. Ness uses his baseball bat combined with psychic powers as his arsenal of choice. Ness was almost removed from Melee to be replaced with Lucas, but after Earthbound 64 was cancelled, Ness was able to stay. Due to the lack of new Earthbound games, or if you're European, just straight up lack of Earthbound releases ever, more people recognize him from Smash Bros. Than his own games. Lucas stars in the sequel to Earthbound Mother 3. Lucas, along with his twin brother Klaus, were named after two twin boys from the book Le Grand Kahir, about the turmoils of war-torn Hungary. After Earthbound 64 was cancelled due to the N64 disk drive being scrapped, Lucas almost never made it to a game at all. Luckily, his chance was revived though when the game was placed on the Game Boy and he managed to make it into Super Smash Bros. Brawl. He primarily uses sticks to fight instead of baseball bats, but he still has those trusty psychic powers. Fox McCloud is the leader of Star Fox. The original Star Fox SNES game started as a tech demo to show off the SNES Turbo graphics card ability to render 3D games. Originally called SNES Glider, Miyamoto helped to shape the game into a rail shooter that we know and love. When creating the game, Miyamoto could not decide on what name to use for the hero of the game. Torn between many animals, some of which would go on to have other roles in the game, such as Star Wolf, Miyamoto decided on Star Fox after visiting a shrine in Kyoto celebrating Inari, a Japanese kami associated with foxes. While at the shrine, Miyamoto also noticed many of the red arches nearby, which were adapted in the game as obstacles for Fox to fly through. Fox also gains his red scarf from the statue that inspired him as well. Falco, of course, being from Star Fox series, brings the sass to the table. Being a friend and competitive rival to Fox, Falco joins up with the Star Fox after falling out of his old crew of ace pilots, the Space Hot Rodders. It's never been confirmed why Falco left this crew, but it is hinted that it had something to do with a falling out between him and his partner Kat. However, I like to believe Falco is above such petty romantic squabbles and instead left because Space Hot Rodders is a dumb name for a space crew. Wolf O'Donnell was originally hired by Andros to take down the Star Fox team, but after failing to do so, gained a respect for them. This shifted him from antagonist to anti-hero in future games. Wolf even goes on to save Fox in Star Fox Assault, although he does say he only saved him because he's the one who wants to tan his hide. I don't think this is meant to be sexual, but I asked Nintendo for comment and they declined, so you be the judge. Wolf spent the years between his initial defeat by Star Fox and his apparent turnaround to anti-hero amassing a group of criminals who called him Lord O'Donnell. He seems to have a change of heart during the Aperoids invasion though. I guess the end of the universe will do that to a guy. Marth was originally from the first and third Fire Emblem games, neither of which were released in America. This led to him almost being removed from the English version of Smash Bros. Melee, but luckily he was kept in the game because Sakurai just felt he was too fun of a character to leave out. Ironically, this inclusion has led to a larger interest in the Fire Emblem series in the West. Marth seems to have been spared at least a small bit of heartache, as a scene depicting him next to his dying father figure Jagan had to be cut from the game due to hardware limitations. Marth has been in more Fire Emblem games than any other character in the series, totaling 14 appearances and counting. Lucina comes from the Fire Emblem Awakening, where she is the daughter of one of the main characters, Chrom. Her and her companions have traveled back from the future to put a stop to the end of the world. She is not only an echo fighter of Marth, but within her own game, she is mistaken for Marth. During her first introduction, she bears a very strong resemblance to Marth, not just in appearance, but also in mannerisms. Lucina was voted by a poll in Japan to be the most popular female character from the Fire Emblem series. She is said to have an odd sense of fashion and a love for bear hats. It is cited in almost every piece of supplemental media that she has zero sense for fashion or design. Ike is the first and only main character from the Fire Emblem series that is not from noble birth. He is featured in Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, where he is the leader of the Grail Mercenaries. He is also said to be one of the strongest warriors that the world has ever known in the Fire Emblem universe. Ike was almost named Paris, as Roy was meant to be named Ike, but this seems to have been shuffled around last minute. Which brings us to Roy. Roy is potentially the only main character from a Fire Emblem game without daddy issues. He is the only character whose father survives the entire game instead of being murdered in front of him or dying tragically prior to the start of the game. He is tied with the character Leaf for the youngest protagonist of the series at age 15, which maybe explains why in Smash Bros. Melee he swings his sword with the strength of a premature baby. Robin is a player customizable character from Fire Emblem Awakening. Despite being player customizable, Robin has a set personality and interest. Robin's hooded design is used to obscure any customization during cutscenes. Robin is honestly the most boring Fire Emblem character from a history standpoint, so next. Oh my god. Corrin! Corrin is basically like Robin, but like a dragon or something. Their dragon is possibly based on a Qilin, a Chinese dragon that has deer-like antlers. No more Fire Emblem characters. For now. Pit hails from the NES classic Kid Icarus, and also the much less successful 3DS game Kid Icarus Uprising. His character is based on a combination of two mythological Greek figures, Eros, the Greek counterpart to Cupid, and Icarus, the guy who flew too close to the sun and melted his wings. His gameplay was designed to combine the platforming skills of Mario, the item usage of Link, and the projectiles of Samus. Pit received an overhaul on his design when he was first introduced into Smash, and the design has become his main look ever since. In fact, if it wasn't for his inclusion in Smash Bros. Brawl, he most likely never would have gotten a 3DS game at all. Pit is also illiterate in the English version of Uprising for some reason. I guess there's not a lot of public schools for the Greek deities out there. Dark Pit. Dark Pit is not just Pit after listening to Linkin Park, as I had thought previously. He's actually an imperfect clone created by the Mirror of Truth. He uses a prototype of the wings and bow that Pit uses. He has an intense rivalry with Pit, but it is also described as having a strong bond to him as well. Palutena. Palutena is the goddess of light and patron goddess of Pit. She was most likely based on Athena, as they share similar appearances, staff and shield, and they both turned Medusa into a monster and then later sent to have her killed. Despite being an immortal god, she seems to be very sensitive about her age, getting extremely upset when called ma'am. She also has a knack for mixing up phrases, but is too proud to admit when she is wrong. But hey, like Palutena says, every coral has its thorns. Pikachu. Pokemon began in 1996, and since then there is possibly no more famous Pokemon than Pikachu. After grabbing the starring role in the Pokemon anime, Pikachu has become the icon for the internationally beloved series. His original design was made by Atsuko Nishida and finalized by Ken Sugimori, although he has considerably lost some weight over the years. Good for you, Pikachu. Pikachus get their name from the adorable rodent animal, the Pika. Pika is also an onomatopoeia in Japanese for the sound a spark makes. Chew is an onomatopoeia for the sound a mouse makes, and the two combined make a name that was easy for people around the globe to pronounce. Pikachu's world popularity has reached a point where he has even been featured on actual valued currency in the country and I don't know how to pronounce that name. Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff, also known as the balloon Pokemon, also gained notoriety thanks to her reoccurring role in the anime. Originally, she was based more on being jelly-like. This is reflected in her Japanese name, which is Purin, meaning custard or pudding. Jigglypuff captures enemies' attention with her giant quivering eyes, and then puts them to sleep with her lullaby. This design sounds vaguely reminiscent of the Sirens and their song leading sailors to their deaths from Greek mythology. Pokemon Trainer, Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard. Pokemon Trainer is based on the remake of the original Gen 1 trainer featured in Leaf Green and Fire Red. The trainer also features various versions of the Gen 1 starters. Within Smash Bros, the Pokemon Trainer is a very unique character. Going into Ultimate, he will be the only character who is able to transform into different characters, as both Zelda Sheik and Samus Zero Suit Samus have been separated into unique characters. Also, since Pokemon Trainer is not actually in the fight, they are technically the only character to stay on the stage after losing. They just sit in the background making a defeated animation from the games. Greninja. Greninja is the evolved form of the water starter from Pokemon X and Y. In the show and games, a Greninja with a bond ability are able to transform into Ash Greninja, which allows him to shoot huge water shurikens and look slightly cooler. Greninja was also announced for Smash prior to the X and Y's release, meaning much of his moveset had to be created based on his appearance. Greninja is also the fastest water Pokemon ever. Pichu. Pichu is baby Pikachu and it's cute as shit. Pichu has a hard time storing its electricity and will often discharge it by accident, which also hurts Pichu. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, there is somehow an even more adorable version of Pichu with the spiky-eared Pichu. In Smash Bros. Melee, Pichu was widely accepted as the lowest tier, if not just the worst character overall. However, it seems that with the buffs that Pikachu is getting in Ultimate, Pichu may be a bit more viable as well. However, he will always just be a worse Pikachu that hurts himself using his own moves, so I doubt he'll move very far up the tier list. Mewtwo! Mewtwo is the genetic clone of the ancient Pokemon Mew, and one of the strongest in the series. Mewtwo was designed by Ken Sugimori, and prior to the Pokemon movie was rarely referred to as a clone because Nintendo felt clone had a negative connotation. They say that, and then they go on to make Mewtwo make every child who was 10 and under in the year 1998 cry to this bullshit. I think it's safe to say that Mewtwo has made more children cry than any other Pokemon. Lucario. Lucario is furry bait. Alright, enough said. Villager. He or she lives in a town comprised of adorable animal neighbors, and I will refrain from making any more furry jokes, but, like, I am definitely thinking of some. After being announced for Smash 4, the internet went crazy with jokes about villagers seemingly dead stare and smile as he hits opponents with axes and bowling balls. Within the Animal Crossing series, the character Gulliver makes many Mario references, alluding that Animal Crossing and Mario may take place in the same world. Olimar. Captain Olimar is from the Pikmin series, which debuted in 2001 on the GameCube. Olimar gets his name from Mario, as Mario's Japanese name spelled backwards is Olimar. In the Pikmin games, Olimar's goal is to get his ship repaired in under 30 days before his life support system fails. If the player fails to do this, Olimar will try to fly away with a half-repaired ship and crash land back to the planet. The Pikmin pick him up, throw him into one of their spawners where he is transformed into part Pikmin. However, this is just a non-canon bad ending. Olimar's ship is named the SS Dolphin after the codename that was used for the GameCube during its development. Captain Falcon. Douglas J. Falcon, or as most know him, Captain Falcon, is both a race car driver in the F-Zero circuit and a bounty hunter, pretty much making him the coolest Nintendo character ever. Captain Falcon was originally going to be the main mascot for the SNES system, but this didn't pan out and he ended up only representing his own game series instead. Due to Captain Falcon's dangerous life as a bounty hunter, he lives in solitude on an island sanctuary. On his multiple islands, he has different racetracks which keep his driving skills sharp. Captain Falcon is also said to have many aliases, one of whom apparently runs the Falcon House, a bed and breakfast of sorts. Not sure how all of this coincides with him living on an island, but that's a Nintendo backstory for you. Little Mac. Little Mac is the little fighter with big dreams and star of the Punch-Out series. Just how little is he? Well, supposedly he is just 4 foot 8 inches and 107 pounds, but hey, he's only 17, so maybe he's just like a really late bloomer. Little Mac was originally named Peter Punch, but this was thankfully changed prior to release. In the SNES title Super Punch-Out, Little Mac had a redesign that was later reverted back to his original design for the Wii version. Bryce Holiday, one of the lead developers of the Wii version, has said that the SNES character is not Little Mac, but Nintendo seems to disagree with him, listing it as Little Mac on the Virtual Console page. Wii Fit Trainer. Every Smash game has to have a joke character that no one asked for, and Sakurai really outdid himself in Smash 4 when he introduced the Wii Fit Trainer. Hailing from Wii Fit, the extra gaming video game, and no, I did not make that phrase up, please don't hate me, Wii Fit ended up selling an insane 22.67 million units. Wii Fit Trainer is one of the few characters in the game to use different voice actors in different countries. This combined with the fact that they have male and female versions in every country, Wii Fit Trainer has the most voice actors of any character in the series. Rob. Rob is an anagram for Robotic Operating Buddy. He was released as an accessory for the NES and was only utilized in 2 games, Gyromite and Stack Up. These are as riveting as you imagine they are. Rob was employed by Nintendo to reassure stores that Nintendo was not just a video game system, as the video game crash of 1983 was leaving retailers feeling wary and not wanting to stock video game consoles anymore. It actually did seem to have the intended effect, despite being somewhat of a Trojan horse move. Duck Hunt. Speaking of a gimmicky character, Duck Hunt, which I guess is the name of the Duck Hunt dog, which was originally from the NES game Duck Hunt, a game that was designed to showcase the light gun, an extra controller peripheral that Nintendo was including with systems at the time. The game Duck Hunt was bundled together with so many systems and other cartridges, it's hard to get an accurate sales number for the game. Fun fact about Duck Hunt game is that if you use the second controller, you can actually control the duck. Found that out from Seth Rogen on Twitter 25 years later. Kinda weird. Mr. Game & Watch. Mr. Game & Watch is the grandfather of Nintendo and the oldest character in Smash Bros, beating even Pac-Man by 1 month. He is a completely flat character, even in Smash Bros where he is flattened along one axis. The Game & Watch series of games is a line of handheld electronic games produced by Nintendo from 1980 all the way up to 1991. The Game & Watch handheld series would be what eventually inspired Nintendo to pursue development of the Game Boy. Shulk. Shulk is the main character of the original Xenoblade Chronicles, and much like Barth, helped to bring more mainstream attention to his game in the West. Xenoblade Chronicles took almost 2 years to even make it to the West, despite its critical acclaim and overwhelmingly positive reviews in Japan. Shulk was designed to be a more likable main character than the average jaded JRPG protagonist. Shulk is said to hate vegetables and be terrified of caterpillars due to an incident earlier in his childhood. Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog was created by Sega to be an icon to represent their gaming console and compete with Mario throughout the years of the console wars. There were many ideas for what Sega's mascot would look like in the beginning, such as an armadillo, a dog, or even Theodore Roosevelt in pajamas. Not kidding. Some of these other ideas would be converted into other characters, like the Theodore Roosevelt character being made into Dr. Eggman, but the one that was ultimately decided on was Mr. Needlemouse, who Sega intelligently renamed Sonic. Sonic's design ended up having elements of Michael Jackson, Santa Claus, and Bill Clinton in it. Sega was admittedly just trying to manufacture the most derivatively popular character they could, and millions of dollars later, it's really hard to argue with that strategy. Snake. Solid Snake goes by many names in the Metal Gear series. Old Snake, legendary mercenary, the man who makes the impossible possible. And David. He is a clone of the Metal Gear series antagonist Big Boss and is said to have an IQ of 180 and to be fluent in 6 languages. I guess this is true, but it reads like an angry Reddit comment. Snake was the first third-party character to be announced for a Smash Bros. Game and really opened the door for who fans wanted to be in the series. This isn't his only appearance in other games though. He's had dozens of cameos over the years. One of his strangest may be in Yu-Gi-Oh! The 7 Trials to Glory, where he can be found hiding under a cardboard box. Bayonetta. Bayonetta is an adventure hack and slash series that originally didn't even release on a Nintendo console. It wasn't until years later that Bayonetta 1 would make its way to Wii U, and now the series has been all but officially adopted by Nintendo, with Bayonetta 3 being at the very least a release exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. A very weird pairing for a game that is said by its own creator to be about sexiness and partial nudity. Cloud. Cloud Strife is one of the most popular protagonists that the long-running Final Fantasy series has ever managed to produce. He wields the hugely impractical Buster Blade, which is almost as iconic as the character himself. Cloud is a mercenary turned hero with the help of his friends throughout his adventures in Final Fantasy VII. Cloud has the most instances as a playable character out of all the Final Fantasy characters. Ryu is not just the face of the Street Fighter series, but in some ways the face of competitive fighting games as a whole. One of gaming's most recognizable icons, Ryu made his debut in the first Street Fighter game in 1987 and has remained a main protagonist alongside Ken ever since. Ryu is tied with Chun-Li for the most crossovers from a Street Fighter character into other games, and along with Ken is the only other character to be in every Street Fighter entry. Ryu has crossed over into so many other universes at this point that at one point he even took over the mantle of the Iron Fist in the Marvel Universe. Mega Man. Mega Man, also known as Rockman in Japan, from one of Capcom's longest running and most famous series by the same name. Originally designed by Akira Kitamori, Mega Man was almost a white character, but was changed to blue so that his animations would be easier for the audience to distinguish. Inafune is often called the father of Mega Man, but he openly admits he did not design the character. It wasn't until he designed Zero that he created an original Mega Man character. The original Mega Man games are somewhat infamous in America for their terrible artwork, but the designer of these covers, Mark Erickson, says he had nothing to go off of and only a day and a half to get it done. Not really sure what his excuse was for the sequels though. Pac-Man. Pac-Man, or as you may have heard from Scott Pilgrim, Puck-Man in Japan, was one of Namco's earliest successes, releasing in October 1980. At the time of its release, Pac-Man was unlike anything that had ever been released, creating its own genre of game. Over its lifetime, it has generated over $2.5 billion in quarters alone. According to the David Brownie Index, Pac-Man is the most recognizable gaming icon in America, with an outstanding 94% of consumers recognizing him. Pac-Man was Namco's first video game as they transitioned from making writable mall toys to video games, created by Toru Iwatani and his 9-man team over the course of about a year. Mii Fighters. Mii's were created to be Nintendo's own brand of personal avatars on the Wii, but they wouldn't find their way into Smash until Smash 4 on the Wii U. Mii's may have made their debut on the Wii, but Nintendo had come close to releasing customizable avatars in the past. There was almost an entire Famicom game based on this idea, and an option on the N64 disk drive would have allowed players to do the same. Even the Nintendo e-reader in combination with the GameCube would have allowed players to do this. These were all scrapped for various technical reasons though. Inklings. Inklings hail from one of Nintendo's most recent hits, Splatoon. The original concept for Splatoon was created by a member of the Animal Crossing team, who created a quick, ink-based 4v4 prototype, which Nintendo greenlighted for a full game. The team knew they wanted to put squids in the designs of the characters, but they struggled to figure out how through almost a year or two of development. It wasn't until someone on the development team thought of the idea to have them change between kids and squids that the Inklings were really born. Splatoon's story itself is oddly dark for a Nintendo game, taking place thousands of years in the future after humanity is wiped out due to flooding. As the waters receded, the Inklings evolved and took to land, fighting in great turf wars over what little land there was. Inklings start life as just squids in this horrifying graphic, and you know what? These Inklings are just getting weirder the more I talk about them, so let's move on before I start having nightmares. Ridley is also known as Geofrom 187, or much more terrifyingly, as the Cunning God of Death. He is the leader of a band of homicidal space pirates and serves as the main antagonist in the Metroid series. He is a skeletal-looking dragon, and at certain times after being defeated by Samus, he is a robotic skeletal-looking dragon. Ridley is most likely named after Ridley Scott based on the heavy inspiration that the Metroid series takes from the Alien series, but this is not confirmed. Isabelle! Isabelle first appears in the Animal Crossing New Leaf and quickly won over the hearts and minds of fans. She is the twin sister of Digby, who runs the Happy Home Showcase. Her name in English is a play on the fact that her head looks like a bell. She is a bell. It's like the dads of the world collectively came up with that name. Isabelle spends her free time playing in the Puzzle League, where apparently playing with her band, although we never get to see the band. Come on, Nintendo, give us justice. Let us see Isabelle's band. It sounds freaking adorable. She also mentions that if you visit other villages, you may see some of her sisters who also work as secretaries and are also named Isabelle. Apparently, her family has a bit of Nurse Joy syndrome going on. King K. Rool. King K. Rool is the primary antagonist in the Donkey Kong Country series. First, stealing Donkey Kong's banana hoard, but later just stealing Donkey Kong himself. His name is quite obviously a play on the word cruel, and one that the creator of the character jokingly says he would have put more thought into if he'd known he was going to end up so popular. King K. Rool leads the Kremling's horde to terrorize the entire Kong family. The creators of Donkey Kong Country series never give a very solid answer as to why King K. Rool wants all the bananas, but the best answer we've ever gotten was because he wants Donkey Kong to starve to death so he can take over his sweet tree pad. Although, since he at times has kidnapped Donkey Kong and had him at his mercy, it doesn't really add up. I guess he's just crazy. Incineroar is another Pokemon. This one is Gen 7 and based on American wrestling. Next, Simon Belmont. Simon Belmont is a renowned vampire killer in the heir of the Belmont clan. He is the main hero in the first 2 Castlevania games. The series was almost never released in America, as publishers felt that the religious overtones would be too polarizing in America. But thankfully the game was released and went on to become one of the greatest selling series of all time. Simon is one of 2 Belmonts to face Dracula twice. As the first time he defeats Dracula, he is cursed. In breaking the curse, he inadvertently brings Dracula back to life. Richter Belmont. Richter Belmont is Simon's descendant and continues the legacy of vampire hunters. He is the main protagonist of Castlevania Rondo of Blood and has appeared multiple times throughout the series. He pretty much gets the usual Belmont treatment. Dracula comes back to life, steals his girlfriend, etc, etc. Dark Samus is the main protagonist of the Metroid Prime series and is an incarnation of Metroid Prime. Dark Samus is made of Phazon and Samus's own DNA. She has many of the same powers as Samus herself, making her a very formidable enemy. Princess Daisy. Princess Daisy is the princess of the far-off land of Sarasa Land. She was introduced in the Super Mario Land series, the same series that would go on to introduce Wario as a character. However, since then it has been confirmed that she now lives in the Mushroom Kingdom, I guess abandoning her princess duties and saying fuck off to the countries that she's from. Despite many fans assuming that she has a relationship with Luigi, there is no actual evidence of them having any type of romantic relationship ever. So if there's anything to take away from this list, it's that Nintendo hates Luigi. Chrom. Chrom is another blue-haired royal character from Fire Emblem. He is the 3rd main character from Fire Emblem Awakening and the 3rd main character from that game to be in Smash. And if we're really lucky, he will be the last Fire Emblem character added to Smash, but we all know that's not gonna happen. Ken. Ken Masters is the best friend and American counterpart to Ryu from Street Fighter. Ken may be loosely based on Joe Louis, an American kickboxer. Ken may have just started off as a palette swap of Ryu, but his backstory was meant to appeal to the emerging American markets that Capcom was targeting at the time. Apart from kicking butt across the globe, Ken likes to spend time at home with his family, where he's got an adorable son and a kickin' wife. Piranha Plant. Piranha Plants are based on Venus flytraps and they first appear in Super Mario Bros. Since then they have continued to be plants, until Sakurai decided to screw with everybody's mind and make them a playable character. Personally, I think this is the greatest thing that he ever did. Waluigi. Waluigi is not in Smash Bros. Because no one loves him and memes don't make good characters. Woo! Woo! Alright guys, that took about 1,000,000 years to complete from start to finish with all the editing and whatnot, so I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I do all sorts of stuff, streams, you know, you've been on YouTube, you've seen game YouTubes, you know. Anyways, love you beautiful faces. I'm gonna go sleep for like a year straight, except not really, because I'm gonna have to start working on another video like immediately. Love you guys, bye-bye. Woo! Make it all the way. Let's try it. There we go.